7 isometric postures used by Shaolin monks to transform ordinary men into strength machines. Strip the clothes off a Shaolin monk and put a regular shirt on him, and he will go completely unnoticed on any street. No swollen muscles, no popping veins, no appearance of someone who trains hard every single day. And yet, this man can hold his own body in positions that would make a bodybuilder collapse in seconds. The problem is that we have learned to associate strength with appearance, to believe that without sophisticated equipment and without visible hypertrophy, real strength does not exist. But it does exist, and it is born from somewhere else, from the ability to stay still under maximum tension until the body begs for mercy. That is why today you will see 7 isometric postures used by Shaolin monks to transform ordinary men into strength machines. Before we begin, please leave in the comments your name and the city you are watching our content from. We would love to know. Exercise number 1, hollow body hold. Let us start with the foundation of almost every advanced calisthenics movement. The hollow body hold looks simple just by looking at it, but hold the position for 20 seconds and you will understand why gymnasts have used it as a training foundation for decades. This exercise works the core as a whole with emphasis on the rectus abdominis and the transverse abdominis, while also lightly recruiting the hip flexors and the lower back stabilizers. It is this integrated muscular recruitment that separates a merely visible abdomen from a truly functional one. To perform it, lie on your back on the floor and press the entire length of your lower back against the ground, leaving no empty space beneath your back. Extend your arms behind your head and your legs in front of you, lifting your shoulders and legs slightly off the floor at the same time. The body should form a gentle curve, like a boat. Breathe in a controlled manner throughout the entire time under tension, without holding your breath. An extra tip that makes a real difference. Keep your gaze fixed on a point on the ceiling and imagine you are trying to glue your lower back to the floor. This activates the core far more efficiently than simply trying to raise your legs higher. The most common mistake here is letting the lower back arch and losing contact with the floor, transferring the tension to the spine instead of the abdomen. If that happens, it is a sign that you need to regress the position by slightly bending your knees until you build enough strength. Start with 2 to 3 sets of 15 to 20 seconds and gradually progress to 30 to 40 seconds as your endurance increases. Contraindications. People with lumbar disc herniation or acute pain in the area should avoid this exercise without first consulting a healthcare professional, as the pressure on the lower back may worsen the condition. Exercise number 2, crow pose. If the hollow body hold works the core in a straight line, the crow pose, also known by its Sanskrit name Bakasana, tests your ability to support your entire body weight on your own hands. Regular practitioners can develop a level of wrist and forearm strength that few traditional gym exercises can offer. Studies on body balance practices suggest that arm balance postures significantly improve proprioception, meaning the body's awareness of its own position in space, something essential both for athletes and for older individuals in fall prevention. The primary muscles recruited are the wrist flexors, the triceps, the anterior deltoids, and the core as the central stabilizer. To perform it, squat with your feet close together, place your hands on the floor at shoulder width, and position your knees on the back of your arms, near the armpits. Lean your body weight forward until your feet lift off the ground, keeping your gaze slightly ahead of your hands, never looking downward. The tip that helps beginners the most is to practice near a pillow or a mat, reducing the fear of falling and allowing the body to learn balance without unnecessary tension in the neck. The most frequent mistake is looking at your own hands during the movement, which throws the body off balance forward. Another common mistake is trying to lift the feet before transferring enough weight onto the arms. Hold for 10 to 20 seconds per set with 3 to 4 sets, gradually increasing the time as your balance improves. Contraindications. People with injuries or instability in the wrists and shoulders should avoid this posture until they strengthen those joints with preparatory exercises. Exercise number 3, wall handstand hold. The wall-supported handstand is probably the position most associated with the classic image of absolute strength and body control. And it is no coincidence that Shaolin monks use it as a daily training tool. Sustaining the body weight upside down requires muscular recruitment from virtually the entire upper trunk. The wall handstand hold intensely works the deltoids, the triceps, the core stabilizers, and isometrically the spinal erectors, which keep the spine aligned throughout the entire hold. To perform it, place your hands on the floor at roughly 1 step away from the wall, at shoulder width. Walk your feet up the wall until the body is vertical, with the hips aligned over the shoulders. Keep the neck in a neutral position, looking at a point between your hands, and engage the core as if you were about to take a punch to the stomach. The most valuable extra tip here is to think about pushing the floor away from you with your hands, activating the shoulders more and relieving unnecessary pressure from the wrists. A very common mistake is letting the lower back arch excessively, which overloads the area and reduces the efficiency of the exercise. Another mistake is holding your breath throughout the entire hold, which unnecessarily raises blood pressure in the moment. Hold for 10 to 15 seconds initially, progressing to 30 seconds as the shoulder gains stability in 3 to 4 sets. If the fully inverted position is still too demanding, a safe alternative is to reduce the angle by keeping your feet lower on the wall and gradually moving higher over the weeks. Contraindications: people with uncontrolled high blood pressure, vision problems related to eye pressure, or recent injuries to the shoulder or wrist should avoid this inverted position. Exercise number 4, L-sit. The L-sit is considered by many calisthenics coaches to be one of the most honest tests of core strength and anterior chain strength. There is no momentum, there is no impulse. Either you have enough strength to hold your body in the air, or gravity wins quickly. This exercise intensely recruits the rectus abdominis, the hip flexors, the triceps, and the shoulder stabilizers, while also requiring significant hamstring flexibility. To perform it, sit on the floor with your legs extended in front of you and your hands placed beside your hips, with fingers pointing forward. Press your hands into the floor, lift your entire body, and keep your legs straight and together, forming a 90-degree angle with the trunk. The shoulders should be slightly depressed downward and back, away from the ears. A powerful extra tip is to start with your knees bent, first testing the hip lift before progressing to fully extended legs. The most common mistake is raising the shoulders up toward the ears during the effort, which reduces proper activation and increases discomfort in the joint. Another frequent mistake is rounding the back in an attempt to gain height, when in fact, the correct approach is to keep the trunk upright. Start by holding for 5 to 10 seconds in 3 sets, progressing the time as strength increases. Contraindications: people with active injuries in the wrist, elbow, or shoulder should avoid this exercise until the affected joint has fully recovered. Exercise number 5, Isometric bear hold. We have reached the first exercise in the more advanced group of the Shaolin training, the Isometric bear hold. Unlike the moving version, here you will simply hold the base bear position completely still, which in practice tends to be even more challenging than walking. Yes, staying still can hurt more than moving, and you will only truly understand that when you test it yourself. This posture simultaneously recruits the core, the shoulders, the quadriceps, and several hip stabilizers, functioning almost like a full-body exercise. That is why it often appears in general physical preparation programs, and not only in isolated strength training. To perform it, get into a 4-point position with your hands aligned under your shoulders and your knees aligned under your hips. Lift your knees a few inches off the ground, keeping the spine in a neutral position without rounding or arching your back. Your body weight should be distributed between your hands and feet, with your knees simply hovering in the air, without touching the floor throughout the entire hold. The extra tip that makes a real difference is to imagine a cup of water balanced on your lower back. If the posture is correct, the cup would not spill a single drop. A very common mistake is raising the hips too high, turning the position into something resembling an inverted plank, which removes the tension from the right place. Another frequent mistake is letting the head drop, losing the natural alignment of the cervical spine. As a practical recommendation, hold for 20 to 30 seconds per set in 3 to 4 sets, with 45 to 60 seconds of rest between them. As your endurance increases, you can reduce the rest interval to 30 to 45 seconds before thinking about increasing the hold time. A good recommendation for those who feel discomfort in the wrists is to practice on closed fists, supporting the knuckles on the floor instead of the fully open palm, which reduces the forced angle of the joint without taking away the efficiency of the exercise. Contraindications: people with injuries or acute pain in the wrists and knees should adapt the support or avoid this posture entirely until the affected joint has properly recovered. Exercise number 6, resting squat. The 6th exercise differs a little from the previous ones because here the goal is not necessarily to suffer as much as possible, but rather to recover the mobility that most people have lost over the course of modern life. The resting squat is the position that young children naturally assume, and that curiously most Western adults can no longer hold comfortably. This posture works the quadriceps, the gluteus maximus, the calf muscles, and primarily the ankle and hip mobility, making it an exercise of both strengthening and joint recovery at the same time. To perform it, stand with your feet slightly wider than hip width, bend your knees, and lower your hips as far as possible, keeping your heels fully on the ground and your back as upright as possible. Your arms can stay between your knees with your elbows pressing inward to help keep the trunk upright and gently open the hips. The most valuable extra tip for those who struggle to keep their heels on the ground is to place a small support, such as a folded towel underneath them, gradually reducing the height of the support as ankle mobility improves. A common mistake is forcing depth by lifting the heels off the ground, which removes the tension from the right place and transfers the load onto the knees. Another frequent mistake is rounding the lower back completely in an attempt to go deeper, when the ideal is to keep the trunk as neutral as possible within your current range of motion. As a practical recommendation, start by holding for 20 to 30 seconds in 3 sets. And you can even split that time throughout the day, since this is a position that can be incorporated as an active rest habit and not only as an isolated exercise. Over time, increase the hold to 60 to 90 continuous seconds. It is worth remembering that this is not a posture you should force all at once. It typically requires weeks or even months of consistent practice before the ankle and hip recover their full natural range of motion, so treat this exercise as a gradual process, not as a one-time flexibility test. Contraindications: people with serious meniscus injuries, knee replacement, or severe ankle mobility limitations should seek professional guidance before attempting this full range of motion. Exercise number 7, isometric glute bridge. Closing the main block, we arrive at an exercise that is simple to understand but extremely efficient when performed with real attention to detail: the isometric glute bridge. It tends to be underestimated precisely because it looks too easy at first glance. The gluteus maximus is the largest muscle in the human body, a fact that most people are unaware of, and yet it is one of the most neglected muscle groups in strength training, especially among men. In addition to the gluteus maximus, this exercise strongly recruits the hamstrings and requires solid lower back stabilization throughout the entire hold. To perform it, lie on your back with your knees bent and your feet on the floor, close to your hips. Lift your hips until your body forms a straight line between your shoulders and your knees, squeezing the gluteus maximus firmly at the top of the movement. Avoid hyperextending the lower back, seeking the extension primarily through the hip and not through the curvature of the spine. The extra tip that tends to accelerate results is to think about pressing your heels into the floor throughout the entire hold, which increases the muscular recruitment of the hamstrings and the glutes simultaneously, rather than letting the effort fall mainly on the lower back. A very common mistake is raising the hips beyond what is necessary, forcing a hyperextension of the lumbar spine that can generate discomfort over time. Another frequent mistake is placing most of the weight on the shoulders instead of maintaining a firm base through the feet, which reduces glute activation. As a practical recommendation, hold for 20 to 30 seconds at the top of the movement in 3 to 4 sets, later progressing to lifting one leg at a time, which significantly increases the demand for unilateral stabilization. A specific recommendation for those who spend many hours sitting during the day is to use this posture as an active break, since the gluteal muscles tend to shut down with excessive sitting time, a phenomenon known as positional inhibition. Contraindications: people with acute lower back pain or recent hip injuries should reduce the range of motion or seek professional guidance before progressing to the single leg variation. Now that you have mastered the 7 main exercises, here are 2 bonus exercises to complete the workout. Bonus exercise number 1, Superman. The first bonus exercise is a classic that practically everyone has tried at some point in their life, usually without knowing there was a technical name for it: the Superman. Studies on spinal health indicate that a large portion of chronic lower back pain cases are related not to overtraining, but rather to weakness in the back extensor muscles, which reinforces the importance of including this type of isometric exercise in your routine, even for those who are not seeking hypertrophy. The Superman primarily works the spinal erectors, while also recruiting the gluteus maximus and the hamstrings as stabilizers during the extension. It is a simple exercise, but with a direct impact on posture and the prevention of everyday back pain. To perform it, lie face down with your arms extended in front of your body and your legs fully straight. Simultaneously lift your arms, chest, and legs off the floor, keeping the neck in a neutral position without throwing your head back. The movement should come from the contraction of the lower back and the glutes, and not from a sudden jerk. The most important extra tip here is to lift only as high as the lower back can sustain, with control, without chasing maximum height. Many people think that the higher they lift the body, the better the result. But in practice, what matters is the quality of the contraction, not an exaggerated range of motion. A very common mistake is using momentum to launch the body upward, which drastically reduces real muscular recruitment and increases cervical discomfort. Another frequent mistake is completely holding your breath during the hold, when the ideal is to maintain controlled and steady breathing. As a practical recommendation, hold for 10 to 15 seconds at the top of the movement in 3 to 4 sets, gradually progressing to 20 to 30 seconds as the lower back muscles build endurance. As a more accessible alternative for beginners, you can lift only your arms on one repetition and only your legs on the next, alternating between the two versions until you build enough strength to hold all 4 limbs elevated at the same time. Contraindications: people with lumbar disc herniation, spondylolisthesis, or active acute spinal pain should avoid this exercise without first undergoing an individualized professional evaluation. Bonus exercise number 2, wall sit. Closing today's script, the second bonus exercise is a true test of mental patience, the wall sit. Simple to understand, difficult to sustain for more than a minute without the quadriceps starting to shake. This exercise intensely works the quadriceps, with secondary involvement from the gluteus maximus and the calf muscles, and is especially recommended for those seeking muscular endurance in the anterior leg chain without overloading the joints with impact. To perform it, press your entire back against the wall and slide your body down until your knees form an angle of approximately 90 degrees, as if you were sitting in an invisible chair. Your feet should be far enough from the wall so that your knees are aligned directly over your ankles, never projecting beyond the line of your feet. The extra tip that tends to make all the difference is to distribute your weight equally between both feet, avoiding compensating to one side, which is common when fatigue starts to set in during the final seconds of the hold. A very common mistake is letting the knees go past the line of the feet, which unnecessarily increases pressure on the joint. Another frequent mistake is going too low, placing the knees below the 90-degree angle, which also overloads the knee structure without providing any extra benefit in muscular recruitment. As a practical recommendation, start by holding for 20 to 30 seconds in 3 sets, with 60 seconds of rest between them. Progress by increasing the hold time to 45 to 60 seconds before thinking about reducing the rest intervals. Contraindications: people with active knee injuries, serious circulation problems in the lower limbs, or acute pain in the patellar region should avoid this exercise or adapt the angle of flexion with professional guidance. If you enjoyed this and would also like to see the 4 most popular exercises you should never do after 60, we have a video appearing on screen right now showing each one of them. They put your body at a risk that can even affect your independence, so make sure to check it out. Thank you for watching all the way to the end, and may God bless you, my friend.